Welcome, students, to Monk Meditation, the show about monks in the world of Warcraft.
Brewmaster's in the alpha due to a bug, and it's gone now. But we do have artifact info, and Mistweaver talents get yet another revamp coming up on Monk Meditation, episode 66.
Here's your host, Chai T.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Monk Meditation. Thank you for joining us in the dojo or listening to us later after the fact. We appreciate you joining us. We have a lot of information about the alpha today, and so to get us started, we've got a couple of hosts, including a Mistweaver and a Brewmaster, to help us guide things along. Era, unfortunately, can't make it today. We'll miss him, but let's go to the ones we do have. Monkey O, welcome back. How you doing, sir?
Hey. Doing good. I've just been playing a lot of Final Fantasy instead of WoW. I don't know why, WoW is just kind of, not really fun at the moment. So I'm playing a lot of Final Fantasy, and we had a guild in-house Overwatch tournament, which was a lot of fun. Unfortunately, I had something come up on the last day that we had the tournament, so I missed the last final game, but it was fun.
Who won?
So, my team that I was going to be on did not win, so
That's all you care about.
That's all that matters.
All right, and going to our Brewmaster, who finally has a little nugget of information to work with. LeBlue, how you doing, sir?
Yay! We so last week we finally got Mythic Manoroth down, finally. And then this week we're like, we will go and we'll re-clear some stuff, get some fat loose, and now we're back stuck on Manoroth again. Yay! So hopefully Thursday we come in and kill it, and then we get back to working on Archimon. Other than that, lots and lots of Monster Hunter. I like I was telling Chai, I broke 200 hours today on that lovely game, and I'm still playing the ever-living crap out of it. And Monkey left me a note, says that I'm more awesome than him. So I just gotta say it. Sorry.
Yeah, that's the note I left. Let's go with that.
All right.
We may or may not have been having fun with the show notes. Not saying we weren't. But
Well, best of luck to you and your team on Archimon. I know that is a bit of a fight, but you guys cleared Manoroth, so it should be easy, right?
Should be.
Have you seen my woes?
Well, and of course, the week after I go Brewmaster, most of our healers get crit by the attendance boss, so I'm now Mistweaver and Windwalker Monk again. So Rolling Thunder has found that running heroic progression on Gorfiend a second time around with the alt team is not as much fun as we thought it was going to be.
What? Gorfiend's great. I don't know what you're so silly.
I like Gorfiend.
So we're doing our most runs, but then we've given up on the alt team. We're going to go back and do achievements instead. So we actually ran through and got all the high mall achievements. We're going to work on BRF next week to try to get our meta achievement. So hopefully that'll keep us intrigued and interested in the game for a little while longer before we'd have to take a break until Legion arrives. Because Legion, it seems to be a little ways out still.
It's out there. It's on the horizon.
I'm still guessing late August, early September.
We did get confirmation of at least the minimum that it would come out.
Wait, it's been Q3. Is that Q3? I want to say
Q3.
it's either Q3.
Well, they said the max date would be September 21st. The last day of summer.
Minimum, that was our max.
Right? So they had no minimum before. So a lot of people were like happy and hoping.
It was probably safe to say
right?
summer. You could probably just say summer, and you were pretty safe because of the movie.
The Blizzard Activision earnings call, they did specify that they are planning on releasing Legion sometime after the Warcraft movie. So I'm still holding out hope for July, but we'll see.
Hey, remember Siege of Orgrimmar? How cool was that after a whole year?
It's weird. It's like I've given up on Hellfire a hell of a lot faster than I did Siege of Orgrimmar.
Why do you think
I don't know. I think Siege, the fights were more varied and the environment was more varied.
The environment changed as you went. I mean,
You started off in
it's,
Pandaria,
obviously
then in
we're-
Orgrimmar, then under Orgrimmar. So
yeah, it's.
How
I mean,
much
it's-
easier do you think it was to get the cloaks than it is the rings?
the thing with the cloaks was that you got it by rating, and
Mm-hmm.
here it's like you get
The-
most of it through other than rating.
Nowadays, you can't as a catch-up
Right.
mechanism, which I don't necessarily think is
It's not bad. It's like it's weird the mental games that plays with you, because then you reach the last step, getting the tomes, where you only get it through rating, and if that's an alt,
The tomes are terrible though because they're RNG. That's my biggest gripe is how long it takes.
and
RNG.
specifically though, if this is an alt that you're not rating with, you have to do LFR. Like there's no catch-up mechanic for it. You can't go and do it through your garrisons or through anything else. Everything else you could up to that point.
But just get 725 item levels so you can do normal Hellfire
Right.
Citadel and get your
Right.
tomes. Gosh, noob.
So, like, my shaman is sitting there at 24 of 33 tomes, and I don't think I'll complete it.
Yeah, I'm like that with the characters. Just whatever my characters had on the first few like heroic weeks of Hellfire Citadel, that's what they still have. Like I haven't
get to the
touched
tomes
them.
and I'm
It's
stuck.
just-
I got
I
about
don't
3 different
care to
characters
do
stuck
it.
at that point.
It's like there's no way I'm doing LFR, and I can't bother myself to go and get onto a pug team, because that's almost more painful than LFR half the time. So,
It was. I also say it's nice with Pandaria though because there was a lot more. I feel like you could go and mess with outside of
right.
it. Like you had a lot of story content and stuff with it, which I feel this expansion is
Timeless
lacking on.
Isle kept my interest a lot longer than Tanan did.
I like Tanan more than Timeless. I think Tanan's better overall than Timeless. Timeless actually wasn't that interesting to me. I feel like there was the in-between patches that really caught me with Mist of Pandaria. I loved those little story
Yeah,
bits because I'm a lore
I was
nerd.
talking
So
to
I-
Lady Chai about this the other day, and it's that I thought that the Mist of Pandaria expansion, specifically the 5.1 Craftsring Wilds, was the best storytelling World of Warcraft has ever done.
yeah, for sure, it's a lot better than anything they've done until that
Yeah.
point.
I was really sad to not see that, but
Oh, you missed Craftsring?
I always went Valley of Four Winds when I leveled every time. I did it one time for.
Oh no, I'm talking about the
Lore
5.1
Master.
dailies in the Craftsring Wilds.
Oh, I didn't mind those. I didn't mind dailies as a whole. I think just opening floodgates for
more
them was a silly idea.
The 5.1
The
Craftsring weekly rotation, like the weekly storyline.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and
I mean,
Dwayne and Garrosh.
Garrett.
Whoa,
Hey,
spoilers!
I didn't say what's
jeez.
going on with it.
Okay.
They held hands.
We all know the relationship blossomed from there, so
Yep, holding hands
you
at the end.
ruined it.
Kinda.
So, where were we going with that? I forget.
I think we're talking about monks or
Area.
something on this
Oh,
show
is
at
this
some
monks?
point.
Okay.
Not
well,
sure.
let's talk about monks.
Let's do that.
The Legion Alpha dungeon race happened. Yeah, that happened.
So, aside from the fact of who was the
Okay.
monks, that's unimportant. We're gonna gloss
What
over
I
that.
thought was really cool.
How was the new dungeon? How was the new
Yeah,
dungeon?
Monkey.
'Cause
How
it
was the
looked
new
pretty
dungeon?
cool.
Maw of Souls, right?
Okay, so we did I'm gonna start off saying we did the heroic run first, the heroic calls of valor, and we were kind of like that didn't go well, but we didn't know how well the other team did, and we were constantly inquiring as to how well they did, and nobody would tell us. So we were just like, oh, we did terrible. I'm sure they did much better, which they did, and so we were kind of coming off of that dungeon like, okay, whatever, that's
They had
behind
fat
us.
boss with them. They
That
basically
sucked.
cheating.
And then the next dungeon came through, Maw of Souls, and just from the get-go, we were like, oh, this is awesome. Like, look at that. We were just looking around like, look at that. And we were just kind of
Have you
like
listened to the audio
doing it kind of carefree.
Watcher? They were basically bragging about their art team the entire time, and
It-
from what I could see,
we were
it
doing
looked
the same thing.
fantastic.
Yeah,
It looked
the whole
awesome.
time we were just like blown away by how good that dungeon looked, compared
Final
to
fight looked pretty
what we
awesome
have now.
too.
Oh, yeah,
Last
it was-
fight
I
where
was
she's
surprised they
running the
didn't
ship.
either. They didn't record your guys' audio, or B, they just didn't use it.
Right. Well, we did, and they asked us. Some of us did. Like I was recording, but I accidentally did not record the headset audio. I was recording the game sounds. Towley supposedly recorded his, mumble audio, but and they asked for it. They said, we kind of want to put up sound bites of, when y'all screw up really big, or you do something really well, or
So
you
they
get
want
excited
killer
about
swearing
something.
is what they
Right.
wanted, because
Yeah,
that's
pretty.
probably
No,
half
and,
of it.
but they never used it, and I was really shocked that they didn't use any of it from our side or the EU
Right.
side. So whatever, they just
Yeah, I thought that was a
get
little
passed
weird.
up on
We didn't know until, of course, you knew, but we didn't know until the day of that it was pre-recorded.
Yeah, and when we did it, I don't know how many days before it actually premiered, weeks I should say before it had premiered, and as soon as the post came out that said that they were going to do it, everyone was talking about, oh, this is cool, I can't believe they're doing a dungeon live race, and I went straight back to the people who put on the event. I was like, people think it's going to be live. Like, do you want us to correct that, or are you going to correct that? And they said, nah, we'll deal with it. Don't worry about it. But
No,
nope,
no one.
didn't do anything about it. Just, another example of just poor communication, or
I mean, it didn't really make a difference.
No, but people had
minor.
expectations
Right.
going into it, that it was going to be this exciting kind of. That's what's exciting about a race is, watching it happen as both teams are going at it live.
Like you could be in Tally's
you don't
Twitch
watch-
cheering them on kind of deal.
Exactly.
if
You don't want to
really
watch
wanted
like NASCAR with one car going around the track one day and then the next car going around the track the next day. It's like that's not
Right.
interesting. I mean, you don't watch NASCAR anyway, but it's the whole point of a race that you do
So
it.
one interesting thing
Yes.
I saw in the race, and to bring it back around to Monks, both teams were running Mistweaver.
That's true.
So what was your decision
we had talked
behind
about
that?
it. Yeah, so mine was basically I didn't take the event. Take this how you will. I didn't take the event very seriously. I didn't take it as a race. I took it seriously, but not as a race. I just took it as, look, let's just show off the dungeon. That's all they want is to show off the dungeon. At least that's what I thought. And they were calling it a race. But like, we didn't have like a race team, right? Like we didn't have very high end players on our side, at least. And some players wanted to do a more racy strat, like just really risky, but high risk,
all
high
the
reward.
things you mean?
Yeah, and I was like, let's not do that because it's not going to go well.
Saw
It
what
just-
happened at
it
the
went well in, like,
2014
yeah.
BlizzCon race with the high mall stuff.
Yeah, that too. But like, I don't like that. I just wanted to, because the point was to show off the dungeons, especially the new dungeon, which we didn't get to practice, and the heroic version of the dungeon, which I knew was going to be difficult because we got to practice at normal. We didn't get to practice
Right.
in the heroic, and even in normal, some of those pulls especially with the demon hunter tank, was really difficult. Like demon hunters take a lot of damage, and it was really spiky kind of damage. It was worse than a death knight was. And so for me, it was like I just need to play something that I'm comfortable with. I don't want to be, even though I think discipline would have done better. I think would have been faster. Done more damage. Maybe would have had more damage prevention. I don't want to be fumbling around with keybinds and cooldowns when I'm not comfortable with that
Kind
spec.
of like
And
someone
that's what I told
playing
the team.
a
And they're like,
Demon
whatever.
Hunter tank. Oh, wait.
Yeah, well, he wanted
Knows
to do
how
that
much he'd been
because
playing it,
he had been
though.
playing it,
So-
and they didn't have paladins
Right.
out yet.
Yeah, those got
he
enabled
really wanted to
right
play
after
Paladin.
that. So
But yeah, I mean, there were some specs that just weren't working properly. Like one of our DPS, his main is like a Feral Druid, and those still aren't in, so he didn't get to play that, and he didn't really have a lot of fun playing the Hunter, I don't think. But it was just, we played what we thought we wanted to play, because I'm not sure more than two of us in the team actually took it as a hardcore race,
Right.
like, we gotta win. It was just, let's just play.
So I have a very important question. How many people do you think are going to get motion sick from Maw of Souls,
And
like
that
they
was
do with
something
Grimreal?
everyone brings up, it seems. Like, just that last boss is like, whoa, all right, where's
Like,
my wristband?
It looks really cool, but I don't. There's going to be those people who are like, I get motion sick from this
right.
fight.
I mean,
Fix it,
you
please.
have it
Yeah.
with Hans and Franz. You're going to
Grimreal.
have it with this one.
Yeah.
Grimreal had it real bad.
do
'cause
that
of
dungeon.
background.
Don't do that dungeon or die in the last
Right.
boss.
But it looks really cool.
It
All
does
right,
look
well,
really
let's
nice.
talk alpha. We had two patches since the last time we talked here, and we finally got some information about Brewmaster. And one cool thing is Brewmaster finally made it to the alpha.
Yeah,
For about 5
Brewmaster,
seconds.
go guys! And now they're not.
So apparently there was a bug where you could actually switch to Brewmaster. You couldn't do any of like the artifact weapon thing or anything like that, but
But you could queue as them
You
and
could
stuff.
queue.
And we had people like in a bunch of different like the channels I'm in, we had people coming in saying you can play Brewmaster on Alpha, so and so streaming. It's like, oh, get out of here, quit trolling, quit trolling. And it turns out you could, and apparently Brewmasters are really good because apparently having really stupid high amounts of stagger uptime is really really good right now, and then they're quickly brought down. So.
Yeah.
But hey, so far, so everyone thinks they're really strong. So go Brewmaster.
in a completely unimplemented version of
Right.
the spec, they're really good. So good luck with that speculation.
So a couple
Yeah.
of the spell changes we
Okay.
had, Iron Skin and Purifying those charges, they've brought down the recharge rate to 16 seconds from 20. This seems a little broken already because it seemed like you were able to keep up Purifying or Iron Skin Brew a significant amount of time with the talent.
Like, so we obviously were talking about this. I did a very quick update of the little bit of math I did. So with no talent at all, over a 10-minute fight, you will have a little over 67 charges. Light Brewing is 93 charges, and Black Ox Brew is 99 charges over the course of a fight, assuming fairly good play. But that's basically you always have Brew up.
Yeah.
Hooray! And that's before artifacts and all these other shenanigans that are happening, and with
Which
no haste.
I'm sure is not the goal for the spec.
I
so-
don't think it's supposed to be the goal,
Yeah.
but it does make it so we can actually use purifying brew.
Right. There's
Hooray!
Yeah,
some
they
charges.
straight up said that they don't want that stuff up all the time. You know.
I fully expect to see a very big changes before they're actually implemented, because it seems like we're kind of throwing this at the dartboard still. Don't mind us.
Yeah.
Oh man! And keeping with Brewmaster here, we had a couple new legendaries that got added in.
Yes, we did. We had legendaries. It's pretty exciting.
Talk about
So the stagger one's known about. I don't remember if they ever showed which piece it was, but it's a ring. 3 seconds more to stagger. That'll probably be like the one to get if you really want to go after one. You got a chest piece that causes Keg Smash to proc our healing spears that are for 25% or more. More on artifact traits. Zen Med, 3 melee swings instead of 1 for the helmet slot. And then there's a belt that causes Purifying Brew to do the Siege of Orgrimmar 4-piece, which is you heal when you purify. Hooray. No idea what the numbers are, but okay.
Yeah,
Cool, I
all
guess.
the legendaries seem to be extremely overpowered, but they're doing a lot of stuff to mitigate that, and we'll get more into that a little bit later.
It's
Let's see, a couple of minor things that happened with the spells. There was a spell power nerf to Renewing Mist. They got nerfed a little bit. Mana cost increased to Rising Sun Kick and all other healer main DPS abilities. We'll get more into...
That'll be important later.
We'll get more into that a little bit. Windwalker got something. Afterlife Healing Orb now heals a lot more. It's about 20% HP. So there's that. That'll be really nice during leveling up, for sure.
probably what it's for. Hooray!
And, the Windwalker Flying Serpent Kick glyph was bugged for a little bit and was baked into the spell, which was terrible.
I saw a lot of people screaming
Yeah.
about that. Oh,
so
man.
they reverted that,
For
so you can
years.
calm yourselves, guys. So it's no longer you
That's
will no
good.
longer stop every time you do Flying Serpent Kick because you
Your
clipped
fun
a-
has been unnerved.
yeah, because you accidentally
Your fun has
clipped a
been unnerved.
critter walking around.
Cockroach takes flying serpent kick damage. Dang it!
All right, well let's talk the Brewmaster stuff since you haven't really been able to talk very much in the last few episodes, even though.
Well, it's been so nice though.
All right. Well, I'm gonna mostly touch on like the not super boring stuff. As much as I'm sure you love hearing about how one of our traits is a health increase, it's not exactly the
Keep
most
with the major traits.
in-depth conversation.
Yeah.
So our first thing we spec into is going to be Wanderer Special. It's a 1.25 minute cooldown, and it gives you one of 3 things, which is a problem all of
Wait,
its own.
one of
but
3?
it could get
I thought it was
yeah,
all 3.
it's randomly picked. It's so far as we know, it's randomly
Oh.
picked. You might get a free breath of fire, a health increase, or a bunch of dodge for some seconds. Is what we're understanding
Sounded
right
random, yeah.
now. yay random tank cooldown, might not be a cooldown.
Huh.
Like that's kind of my feeling on it, right?
What if
Like
it was all three? Like you got
probably be smidge overpowered,
right.
and it would become a 5-minute cooldown, like fortifying brew. Like I think it's cool flavor. I just hope we're not being tuned to really rely on it for anything ever. Because I'm like, if I'm hoping for either the dodge or the health, and I get a free breath of fire, yay. um, Another one of our big artifact traits is Dragonfire Brew, though, and it makes Breath of Fire catch you on fire, and you getting hit by damage things hitting you reduces your brew cooldowns as well. So, like tanking and ad fights and stuff, this could be something that very, very, very rapidly reduces cooldowns depending on how they tune it. If there's an ICD, whatever it ends up being. The only thing I don't really like about it is I'm not totally sold on taking damage from it. It's like you get immolation aura, but it hurts you.
Again, this is another vague wording. We
Yeah.
don't know how it's implemented.
Like,
It's
we
a lot of people, like when I was talking in the Peak of Serenity Discord, a lot of people, and me included, when I read it, what it seems to me is that it produces a Rushing Jade Wind type effect of fire, and you deal damage, and when you deal damage, it reduces brew cooldowns. But it's worded in such a way that it could be that you are dealt damage, but your benefit of getting damage is that it reduces brew cooldowns.
Yeah, like if they have to keep the damage component to keep the silly Brewmaster lit himself on fire, that chucklehead, but he's actually doing it on purpose thing because he's clever.
No.
We're gonna ignore the gameplay implications of that. But if they shifted the damage just straight to stagger instead of actual damage, I don't think I'd mind it too much. I don't think most people would mind it too much, but I don't know if that's really necessary.
I mean, on fights where you are. Where you've got that off-tank type situation where you're not actively tanking, that would be a good thing to be doing. You're constantly reducing your cooldowns, and the damage isn't to the extent so much that the active heals or just the refreshing heals going out here and there will probably keep you topped up, and so it's something to do.
Yeah, it's really going to depend how it works in the end, because Breath of Fire comes off cooldown right now every 3 seconds, along with Blackout Strike. Blackout Strike has its own little things that you want to use it for. So we'll kind of see if this becomes maintenance-y, or if it's when you're getting attacked by ads, use this, or even a boss, use this. There's a lot that could possibly be. They're again early iteration. We're still in alpha. Normal caveats apply.
They apply, but nobody listens to them.
Right. Everyone's going to scream about everything.
Why would you ever make this back to a raid?
Because they want Brewmasters to be the dodging tanks, because tanks love relying on RNGesus. Brew Stash? Yeah. So Brew Stash is whenever you consume a brew, for right now it's set 2.5 seconds, you get 25% more dodge. Potentially really, really strong. I mean, it'll be nice, but if you tie it with your mastery, which I'm going to go ahead and just say that almost every Brewmaster rating at some higher level or wanting to play at a higher level will have a weak aura tracking their mastery level, like where their dodge percent is. If you time this, you can get yourself to 100% really quickly and just kind of cheat it all to hell. And you kind of do something similar with another trait a little bit later. Fortification makes Fortifying Brew the ultimate enraged boss tanking ability ever known to man. So what happens is you use Fortifying Brew, and your mastery elusive brawler isn't consumed when you dodge. So basically what happens is you go up into an unhittable, and then the boss simply cannot hit you with melee swings. Boss abilities can still hit you, but if it's just big, angry, like, Paragon of the Klaxi freaking wailing on you, well, you're not going to get hit for 21 seconds, and then you're going to go down like a load of bricks after that. But it's cool. I think it's really cool. I was kind of concerned about Fortifying Brew as a cooldown, because it's a little weaker. It's a little weaker versus like particularly magic damage, but giving it this kind of extra little strength, I think balances it out. And it's a 5-minute cooldown, so we're not going to be breaking.
Oh yeah, I forgot they switched that to 5 minutes. So yeah, you're going to use that once during an encounter.
And then Potent Kick. I'm going to go ahead and assume this is for Blackout Strike. I don't actually know. I don't think anyone's actually figured out what its ability affects because it doesn't specify. And we don't have Blackout Kick anymore, but it basically increases the duration of Iron Skin Brew by 0.5 to 3 seconds for your, I think, per use or whatnot. And this is one of those, if you use a brew and then start immediately the cooldown, this is a really cool little way to min-max your uptime on it. And again, grants you that extra ability to purify more often. So I actually kind of like that one because that does add a little bit to a good player able to maximize their Iron Skin Brew so they can use more purifying brews, so they can use more damage overall taken. So I think that's actually a pretty cool trait, if not a little bit overpowered. Speaking of overpowered, Dark Side of the Moon, you take X% based on the level of it from the next attack after you Blackout Strike.
Oh, does that count for abilities is the question.
That's the big question. I don't know if it's melee swings or if it's full-on abilities, because when you see the boss charging their laser, you're probably going to want to have Blackout Strike ready for it.
Yeah, that's really cool, actually, if that works.
That's Rune Tap. That is basically Rune Tap from Death Knights right there. I'm not sure if that should exist in their current model that they want to go to, because that's one super frequent. Like the only kind of fight you really wouldn't get that much value out of it is like an ad fight, because they hit you so fast it's the next hit. But like big boss is just beating your face in, that's really strong.
Yeah.
So expect heavy iteration on that if that even survives.
Or if it's just a melee attack, then it's like
Yeah. But yeah, like I said, Potent Kick and Dark Side, I definitely like those two because they do have a bit of gameplay tied to them. Like you can tell a good player using them. But I'm still not sold on Wanderer Special. Not really. It's cool flavor wise, but do not like
reliable.
RNG.
Yeah.
Just RNG for tanks is the bane of tanks. I mean, that's why they made our dodge eventually become guaranteed, because then you can kind of count on it to a point, and there's
always going to be RNG in games like this, but the point of the mastery is to reduce RNG.
As long as you compensate for it, it's not that big a deal. But I mean, nobody wants to be Death Knight tanks in Firelands where they just get killed before they can get healed again because, I didn't parry.
Right.
And then the last thing, I didn't touch on them when I was kind of rolling through the talent them because they're technically passives. But Overflow and Gifted Student, they're both abilities that increase the power of our Gift of the Ox. I believe I have it right here in front of my face, but I have to scroll to it. So Overflow, anytime you get a Gift of the Ox, it has a chance to become a greater Gift of the Ox, which heals for twice as much.
50% of your health.
Baseline, that's a 50% heal. Now, there's another one that's called Gifted Student, and that increases the healing done by Gift of the Ox orbs. We're not sure if this is additive or multiplicative. We're assuming it's multiplicative, because if it's added, it's going to be absolutely broken. But if it's multiplicative, it goes up to about 32% heal, so you're getting a 64% heal when you pop out that greater orb. Depending on the frequency, that's a lot of healing.
Yeah.
And that, again, kind of goes against the whole, we want tanks to take more healing from healers and not really be self-sustainable, because that's, Monkey, I don't know what you think, but that's bordering on self-sustaining just a little bit, right?
I don't like that stuff, only because it's not that I don't like it because tanks are allowed to heal themselves and so it takes away from healer gameplay. That's a minor reason. The big reason I don't like it is because I don't know if you're healing yourself or not. Like, I don't know if you're going to have the ability to heal yourself after a big hit or I have to heal you. So if you're balanced around, being able to heal yourself and you take a big hit without, like, communication to say, like in a pug or something, I have 2 orbs next to me, so I'm fine in the next couple of hits. Or, I don't have anything, so you need to heal me. I don't know as a healer if we don't have that kind of effective communication. It's not something you should have to communicate either.
It's so powerful, but it falls under that whole RNG thing. And now Gift of the Ox is supposed to spawn based on your health level when you take damage. Right. But how it's tuned is going to really depend on how strong this is, because if it's tuned somewhat high, I mean, how much healing are we really going to need with how smooth our damage intake's looking to be at the moment?
Yeah.
It's kind of like I'm kind of confused why they're going so hard on Gift of the Ox. And then again, like you said, Gift of the Ox isn't something you can count on per se.
Right. Like if you can, but if you can, if it works out, like I said, they tune it really highly, and you can always count on one Gift of the Ox orb being up every time you don't dodge, and that is basically your way of
blanket,
recovering from
that's your safety
your
blanket.
dodge. Right. So like if you don't dodge, don't worry, you've got to Gift the Ox Orb. If you survive the hit, then that's okay, I guess. But as a healer, if it's a big hit, you're like, oh my god, cooldown him now. But then he eats a double healing orb for 50% of his health, and he's like, whatever. And you're like, okay, I just spent all that mana for nothing.
I haven't looked too much at the other tanks of recently, but if we're going to be this potentially strong, like at reacting to damage, healing ourselves, like
Right.
are the burst model that they're trying to get away from really going to go away?
I don't know. That's the thing.
I
If
mean-
it's more sustained damage, then yeah, I can see the faults in in that kind of system where it's like you don't take any damage, you take a bunch, you heal it up. That's kind of not really going to work with us, kind of more sustained damage boss. On a bursty boss, maybe, but
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't like
there's a lot we need. Give us Brewmaster. Just give
try it. Yeah.
give Brewmaster now.
Well, it was in. It's a bug, but it was in. So there's that.
Wasn't supposed
It wasn't
to be
supposed
in,
to be
okay?
in. This is true. Well, let's talk about a class that is supposed to be in because, both teams use it on a race for some reason. Mistweaver.
Oh yeah, so you're talking about hunters.
No.
Let's talk about Mistweavers. So, let's see where do I want to start. We'll start with this one talent. They removed the talent Soothing Elegance, which previously increased the healing of your Soothing Mist by 30% and allowed you to cast Soothing Mist on the move. And they kind of baked half of that in with Mist Wrap, which increased the duration of enveloping mist by a second and increased the healing bonus by 20%. So now you just have one talent called Mist Wrap in the same slot as Soothing Elegance was in, which has all the effects of Mist Wrap plus the Soothing Mist while moving effect from Soothing Elegance. So your Soothing Mist doesn't do 30% increased healing, but who cares? That wasn't a whole lot anyway. The big part of that talent was the cast while moving. So that's a really good talent now. Like that one slot is a lot more competitive with the other two options because it's just really high throughput on a single target or just spot healing. That's your tank healing button, and it actually does save you a lot of mana if you lean on it as much as you can. If you're a tank healer and you lean on your Soothing Mist a lot, then that's a really good talent. Or you're enveloping mist and you don't go too hard on the AoE healing. That's just makes it a really competitive talent, whereas before it wasn't really all that good.
If you take the talent where that's not on the same tier, right, as the one where I forget the name of it, but you do Vivify and then Enveloping Mist.
It is on the same tier as that, yeah. That's Life Cycles.
Yeah.
So it competes with Life Cycles and a new talent, which we'll go over in a second. Let me see if there's anything else. They buffed Crackling J Lightning damage, almost double. I think it was 1.75 normal damage now, which is okay, thanks, I guess. But again, that almost becomes irrelevant to another thing we're going to bring up. They nerfed Renewing Mist spell power. It was a ridiculous amount of our breakdown. If you looked at the fights like Nathendra, I think less so the Scorpion, but it was just so much of our breakdown. Maybe 25, 30%. I can't remember the exact numbers, but it was huge. Yeah, and that's without the new talent, which would have increased the amount of Renewing Mist you had out, maybe to current levels, WAD levels of Renewing Mist out, which is insane with how powerful Renewing Mist now is in Legion. So let's go over those talents and just kind of talk about how they might affect your general playstyle and maybe just how they affect other talents and artifacts or artifact traits. All right, so the first talent they added was Spirit of the Crane, and it replaced talent in that slot. What was it called? Crane's Grace. Crane's Grace had this effect, which I hated, was when a person with your Renewing Mist drops below 30%, the Renewing Mist is consumed and they get healed for a bunch. I never liked that talent because, one, they had to get super low for it to activate, and 2, it consumed your renewing mist, which I don't like that at all. I don't like having a hot and then not having a hot. Yeah, it did a lot of healing, but there's a purpose to a hot, and if you threw out a renewing mist and it was still had a long duration on it, like 20 plus seconds on it, and it got consumed, it's like, where did it go? But anyway, so they replaced it with this new talent called Spirit of the Crane. And what Spirit of the Crane does says your next Tiger Palm additionally causes your next Blackout Kick or Rising Sun Kick to restore 1% mana. So in your normal kind of DPS rotation, you're supposed to do Tiger Palm and then in between your Blackout Kicks and Rising Sun Kicks to buff the damage that they do. And so if you take this talent, you also get a little bit of mana back. Now, Tiger Palm and Blackout Kick are free, and so that's a free 1% mana for 2 globals. Not a bad deal. But Rising Sun Kick still costs mana. At the time of this talent being put in, it cost around 1% of your mana. I think it was like 0.9%. And now it's going to cost like, I think 1.9% of your mana, almost 2% of your mana with the nerf, I guess you want to call it that. So that kind of goes into the next topic. They increased the mana cost of all main healer main damage abilities. So things like Judgment, Rising Sun Kick, I think combination of like Moonfire, Sunfire, and Starfire. I can't remember what the other ability was. Flame Shock, I think, was on there. I can't remember if there was another one for priests, for holy priests. But anyway, they did that. Just we'll see how that kind of plays out. I absolutely hate that change. I think that's just a really bad idea. When you have mana seemingly as tight as it is, what incentive do I have to actually hit these DPS buttons now? They're going to cost me. This one button's going to cost me 2% of my mana every time I use it. If I cast 10 Rising Sun Kicks, which is not crazy to think about because you can reset it with your Blackout Kicks. It's got like a 8-second cooldown. No, it's like 10, 11, 12-second cooldown, whatever it is. If I only cast 10 of those, that's nearly 20% of my mana gone in a fight. It's like, why do I want to cast this ability now? It makes no sense. The damage needs to go up on these abilities, or I don't know, something needs to happen because I don't like that. But anyway, for Mistweavers, it's particularly important because it helps balance out the next new talent that they added. So they replaced, what was there? I think Summon Jade Serpent statue was there.
Was it the one that
and Summon Jade Serpent statue replaced Mistwrap.
Was it the one that increased your
stacks?
stacks?
Well, Mistwrap increased your stacks. What do you mean?
Well, when you use Thunder Focus T, it did it for 2 abilities instead of 1.
No, that's still there. So what they did was they had on that row you had Manatee, Focus Thunder, and the statue. What they did was they removed Mistwrap, and so they put statue in the place of Mistwrap, which is on the 90 tier, and so they had an open spot in the level 100 tier, and they just shoved Rising Thunder in there. I'm looking at the talents now, and yeah, that's what they did. But anyway, so Rising Thunder is a really simple talent at the face of it. It says your Rising Sun Kick resets the cooldown of Thunder Focus Tea. And we're all aware at this point of how strong Thunder Focus Tea is. It gives you removes the cooldown on Rem. It increases the healing of a fuse, enveloping his instant. Blah blah blah. All that good stuff. Free Vivifies, and probably the 2 best ones are the Rem and the Free Vivifies. Right. But so Rising Sun Kick resets the cooldown on Thunder Focus Tea, and remember you can reset the cooldown on Rising Sun Kick by casting Blackout Kick. And so you would basically be doing a rotation of Blackout Kick or Rising Sun Kick, Blackout Kick. If you got a reset, just use Thunder Focus Tea. When you get that reset, use Thunder Focus Tea. If you happen to get a Blackout Kick reset on Rising Sun Kick, use Rising Sun Kick, Thunder Focus Tea. It's just a crazy amount of mana savings because first you want to try and use it on Renewing Mist, right? So if you have a Thunder Focus Tea, use it on Renewing Mist. If you Rising Sun Kick, then you get another Thunder Focus Tea. You can use it on Vivify or Free Enveloping or whatever you want to use it on. But it was just if you keep using them on Vivifies, that's a crazy amount of mana that you're saving, right? With the cheap Rising Sun Kick was only about 1% of your mana. So you spent 1% of your mana and you got a Vivify out of it, or basically a 1 Renewing Mist or something, but 1 extra Renewing Mist, and that just was going to be so crazy by itself because the competition it had was Focus Thunder and Manatee.
Yeah. By
itself, Rising Thunder, if you take nothing else into account, if you just say, imagine if you could not reset Rising Sun Kick with Blackout Kick, Rising Thunder produced more Thunder Focus Teas than Focus Thunder did in some set period of time. And then Mana Tea fell even farther behind those two talents because you could get so many more Thunder Focus Teas off. So it blew both of the other talents out of the water by itself. And then you have to take into consideration all of the things that are affected by Thunder Focus Tea. It's when you start thinking about it, that spell is the core of your ability to play a monk when you look at all the traits and abilities that go along with it. So if I open up like my artifact, that's kind of where it starts. So first off, there's a nice, really nice, maybe too nice trait for Renewing Mist. And we'll start off easy here. That extends the duration of Renewing Mist by 2 seconds per trait. And at some point in the alpha during raid testing, I had 4 points in that trait due to a relic slot I had. And while I was raiding with another Mistweaver, my Renewing Mist ended up doing about 50% more healing than his did just because I had points in that trait and he had none. This trait was insanely powerful for Renewing Mist, and with Rising Thunder, you're able to get more Thunder Focus Teas out over a long period of time, and so you're able to get more Renewing Mist out because you can get basically a no cooldown Renewing Mist every time you use Thunder Focus Tea, as long as you didn't use the Renewing Mist cooldown before then. So right off the bat, you're already getting more Renewing Mist healing, which, as we talked about before, Renewing Mist was already a huge part of your healing. So they nerfed Renewing Mist because that was going to be a bigger problem. Then you have another trait which says, let's see, where is it? Let me find what it was called. Harmony and Focus, which says your Thunder Focus Tea now empowers one additional spell. And so with that, you're getting even more Thunder Focus Tea empowered spells because it empowers a second spell every time you use it. So that was going to be crazy. Again, more Renewing Mist and or more free Vivifies or instant developings, whatever what have you. Then you had Dancing Mist, which is another trait, which says Renewing Mist is a 10% chance to immediately spread to another target. Again, more Renewing Mist is more Renewing Mist. That sounds crazy, but that's what it was, But probably the biggest one in here was the Celestial Breath. It was the top tier artifact trait, and it says every time you activate Thunder Focus Tea, you do this healing around you, and some amount of healing. Nobody knows exactly how strong it is yet. I mean, it says a number on it, but we don't know if that's split or if it's if it can crit, or we don't know how powerful it is. But knowing that it exists for any talent choice, if you took Mana Tea, Focus Thunder, or Rising Thunder, you're going to get more of those out if you have more Thunder Focus Teas. And so there's so many things that just made Rising Thunder so much better than Focus Thunder, and especially Mana Tea. Mana Tea at this point fallen way behind Focus Thunder and even farther behind Rising Thunder. And so they had to do something, and I think along with making healer spells cost more to kind of prevent healers from, I think, fishing for those, just using these big damage spells off cooldown because they were cheap. Well, they weren't really cheap considering the mana regen, but this had a side effect for Mistweaver in that it made Rising Thunder a little bit more expensive. If Rising Sun Kick costs 2% of your mana, that's essentially 2% of your mana every time you want a Thunder Focus Tea. And so that kind of hurt Rising Thunder, but it's still, for the amount of healing you're gaining, the best choice. And something else needs to be done. It
sounds to me like what you're saying is that fist weaving is back.
Fist weaving is back in a kind of crazy different way. Yeah, it's before we would do damage, and that damage would directly be translated into healing, and you actually cared about the damage you were doing. Now you don't really care about the damage you're doing. Like, these abilities could do no damage, and you would still use them because they reset stuff. Rising Sun Kick resets Thunder Focus Tea, and Blackout Kick resets Rising Sun Kick.
Well, but the problem is we're not immune to melee, or we don't have that melee immunity, right?
Well, maybe selectively. So that was an issue we were kind of worried about since they made all these changes and basically put monks on the alpha. And we recently got a blue post from Sigma, basically the healer dev, and he says that it's, again, like I said, selective. So imagine if you're in melee, right? There are two kinds of abilities that you can get, two big kinds of abilities. One is if you get it and you're in the wrong spot, you immediately wipe the raid. You imagine ability like Flame Bender's, what was the line she shot out, and it would just explode on whoever it hit. If you got that in melee, you basically killed the melee. But so those kind of mechanics where it's instant, you have any time to react. Those are the kind of mechanics that monks and holy paladins will be immune from, or immune to, excuse me. But abilities such as, let's say, that put a dot on you, or a debuff that has a timer on it, and after the timer, expires,
like the Doom Lord's
explodes.
Dooms in Manaroth.
Yeah, exactly. Like things like that, you're not immune to. So it's kind of a weird in between melee and ranged. So melee might not get those mechanics, like a Doom, for example, a Doom type mechanic, whatever that was called. In the new fights, that is. Normal melee might not get those mechanics, but even though you're in melee, you're still considered a healer. And so if you're able to deal with those mechanics, then you're going to be asked to deal with those mechanics. It's only the really kind of panicky mechanics that you have to be spread out for preemptively that they don't expect you to have to handle, which I think is a fine balance. I don't have any issues with that.
Their goal then is to allow you to be in melee pretty much all the time when you want to, right?
Pretty much all the time, yeah, essentially. Yeah, you just have to be more aware if you have abilities, boss mechanics coming up that you have to get out for. And I think that's really good because raiding was so kind of boring because as a Mistweaver, you didn't participate in hardly any of the mechanics, like none. It was...
What, Buckyo, do you hear that? It's the sound of screaming Mistweavers everywhere as they have to deal with fight mechanics as they wipe their raids.
I'm so excited. Like
it's terrible when you switch over to something like a druid, and all of a sudden you're like, how do I play this game? I am so bad at this game.
You want to talk about ignoring mechanics? You should hear my adventures trying to play a DPS after tanking, where I literally ignore everything.
I know I caused so many wipes swapping from my monk to like my druid or priest or shaman, because it's like, how do you... by the way, we've killed this boss like 20 times, but how do you deal with this mechanic? It's like, you just
what do you mean I don't stack in melee? I always stack in melee.
Shoot. So I'm excited for that reason, and just it's fun to do the fights, right? Like, I remember seeing during Iron Maidens, there was this Asian guild that did the entire fight from the water, and so they didn't have to do any mechanics in the fight. And I remember my first thought was, why are you even playing this game? Like, if you're not playing the game, you're just standing there, doing a DPS rotation, and like, why are you here? What's the point? Do you not find this entertaining at all?
Patchwork is a fun, interesting encounter with lots of depth.
I think, obviously patchwork type fights have purpose, and obviously they've become much more
intricate.
Yeah, and mechanically difficult. Like if you look at Butcher, even though there weren't that many mechanics to it, I'm talking like Mythic Butcher, if you screwed up the mechanics, you were dead. You got somebody cleaved, that group was dead, you didn't handle the ad, the whole raid was dead. It was kind of, even though there are patchwork type fights still remaining, they are making them so that you can't just stand there and perform DPS rotation. There is a little bit of thought that goes into it. And I think that's fine, but I'm excited that we are going to be able to do mechanics again. That's good. It's really good.
Not all of them, but some.
Yeah.
We're still going to die horribly whenever we go to druid or something, druid or shaman.
I'm just waiting for everyone to be like, well, it's not supposed to hit me. I didn't think that was going to... Well, it did, so get your ass out of the melee group.
I really hope that they tune it well, because the second that we get killed by some instant thing that's not supposed to, we're going to raise a ruckus.
Start shooting the bug reports.
Exactly. If you do raid testing, report that stuff. Say, this probably shouldn't hit. Don't report stuff that you can handle and you can manage. If a boss puts a debuff on you that is 3 seconds long and you got to get out in those 3 seconds, that's on you. That's plenty enough time to get out. Just because you didn't react fast enough doesn't mean that it should not be hitting proper players, I guess.
Oh,
so you got Mistweavers screaming at having to deal with mechanics, and you have Holy Paladins on the other side who are like skipping through flowers.
Like,
well, you don't have to deal with mechanics now.
I'm sure they're very excited too. Yeah. It's such a wonderful playstyle to be in melee. I actually like it a lot.
Fights.
Yeah, and it allows us to use our new, our DPS abilities. That was a huge concern, especially from me. Like, I didn't care about fist weaving. I'm glad fist weaving died to an extent, but I'm glad also that we have the option to do it, and that because
What'd
the
you
people
just
who
say?
liked it
Did you
now
just
get to do it, and so
did you
that's
just
really good for the spec.
Monkey-O?
I'm
Did you
ignoring you because I
did
know
you
what
just
you
bad speak fist weaving?
I did, and I've been doing
Son?
so for how long?
But what's interesting here is that this is going more back to kind of a jab jab uplift type situation where
Yeah, I think that's
yeah,
right.
because you're in there, you're doing damage, but it's like the damage you're doing isn't the point, right? It's
Right. The jab's damage was irrelevant, just as your Rising Sun kick and Blackout kick damage is going to be
right.
irrelevant.
But it opens
It's
up a
about the
brand new
effects you
play
get from-
style. Like if you like the range play
Yep.
style, have at it. You've got the toolkit to do that. But if you like that melee playstyle and you like the crane type playstyle, you have two new talents that opens up whole new doors and opens up a full healing playstyle for you that allows you. It seems to me like you're going to do even more healing doing that.
Oh, for sure. Oh, it's right now the way it's tuned, obviously right now, and I fully expect it to
it's
get
gonna
nerfed.
get
I have
some
I have
changes.
no doubts. Oh, either this is going to get like the ability itself is going to get nerfed. I think one of the ideas I was playing with was that instead of Rising Sun Kick completely resetting the cooldown on Thunder Focus T, it just takes a couple seconds off the cooldown.
Or an internal
It's one way to
cooldown.
kind of balance it
That
out.
would work too.
Yeah, something. But either they could nerf the talent, they could nerf / change the traits, in the artifact tree, which make it even more powerful. They could alternately buff the other talents in the row. Like Manatee needs to come up. Like Manatee, barely keeps up with Focus Thunder. If Rising Thunder is at all better than Focus Thunder, then Manatee is simply not an option. So I think some good things can happen with Manatee. Either duration increase, the amount of mana cost reduction is increased, the cooldown reduction, the cooldown reduced. There's a bunch of things they can do, but something in that row. And my big thing with Legion, the thing I'm going to fight for more than anything else in Legion, is that the talent rows are competitive because what you do in a fight is pretty much set, but the way you go into a fight can be different depending on what talent you take. I want to say, I want to heal this fight this way with these talents because that's what interests me. And I want someone else to say, I want to heal it this way, which is different than yours, and those both still be effective. There's going to be best choices for fights. There's always going to be that because nobody's perfect, but except anyway. But I just want them to be competitive.
Right.
That's all I want. And right now, that level 100 talent tier is not at all fair.
Yeah, the Rising Thunder seems really powerful. It's the only time that I could see it being an issue is if the mechanics that you are targeted with are bad enough that you don't want to risk being in melee. Like you've wiped the raid a few too many times and you go with something else.
Yeah, for sure, it's a judgment call. That you just have to know the fights, as you always do as a healer. It's so important as a healer to know the fights, to know the damage patterns, to know the abilities, and so it's going to be even more important that you know that stuff, so that you know when you can be in melee and when you can't. And originally, one of the things that was kind of an argument against Rising Thunder was that if a fight has too many abilities that don't allow you to be in melee, then Rising Thunder is kind of
Right.
poop. It's not that great, because you just can't utilize Rising Sun Kick. But then they said, oh, by the way, you can be in melee pretty much all the time. And you're like, well, there goes that
Right.
argument. I tried to save you, Rising Thunder, and it just didn't work.
Yeah. Well, I will expect a lot of iterations coming through on this talent very, very shortly.
Yeah. And there's one final thing, and it's kind of a big thing, sort of. Shaylun's Gift. They acknowledge that it's just boring. Yeah. It's just so boring. It's just a heal. It's strong. You'd be completely wrong if you said it's not strong. It's a free heal, 30-second cooldown that it does a ton of healing. I don't remember what the exact number was. What was it, like something like 700% or something like that of your spell power? It's a huge heal. It had something going for it before where you could cast it while moving, but they took that away for whatever reason. And that was its only saving grace, was that it was castable while moving. And now it's just like, I forget about it. Like, I don't even use it because it's just boring. And so they recognized that, they acknowledged it, and they're going to do something with it. No idea what they're going to do. I just hope that it kind of interacts in some way with the rest of your toolkit, because right now it doesn't at all. Like, it has to, if it's going to be a single target heal, which I think is a good fit for the spec, it's got a proc mastery, it's got a start soothing mist. Maybe you could have it cooldown reduced when you cast other single target heals, very similar to the Holy Priest, Serendipity stuff, but anything to interact with the rest of the toolkit, because right now it's just kind of this thing you do for no reason if you remember it.
Right.
So we'll see what they do with
Yeah,
that.
I've been saying it needs a little rework, and also Strike of the Sky Lord and Windwalker needs a massive rework too. So
Complain about it really
Yes.
loudly, and maybe you'll
You
get
know,
something.
Brewmasters need a massive rework. They're not even in.
right. It's kind of funny. I've noticed in the last few builds, they kind of did their thing with Windwalker, and they're like, "Yeah, that's good. There you go," and not really making many changes. And so far, it's a good spec, but I think it still needs a little work. But hopefully, we'll see a revamp coming soon, and hopefully, we'll see Brewmasters in.
Yep.
And
Hopefully
hopefully before
very
March,
soon.
so I can tell LeBlue he's wrong.
In March. Look, if we got Brewmasters this Tuesday, I would just accept it as a day early birthday present, and I'd be okay with it. It'd be a lot more helpful if I got Alpha with it, but I would be satisfied with just having Brewmasters, so we can start actually having something instead of sitting there just doing math on paper and being like, well, this is relevant if we have like this dummy attacking us, but we have nothing to base it off
Hey,
of.
those bosses
Did you see
have names. They're not just dummies.
Did you see the picture of the Yulon coming up when you hit revival? Huh.
Wait,
That's
what?
all-
Revival even has a cool new animation?
Yeah, like what is
What?
it? It's an artifact trait that when you take it, it like does 30% more healing on revival and whatever. That's who cares. But then Yulon appears above your head and he's like, whoa, and you're like, yeah.
Rawr,
That was
I'm
the
a
whole
dragon.
story. But that's
Bye.
all I've wanted since Alpha came out, and I read the artifact talents. That's all I've been. That's what my entire Alpha playing experience has led to. I've been trying to do dungeons to get the artifact power, just so I can make it to that talent to see the animation. My priorities are in order.
Oh, have you seen Brewmasters though? So there's a cool thing. A screenshot popped up somewhere. Even without the artifact, Brewmasters have a keg in one arm. Have you
No, I
seen that
haven't.
yet?
With the staff over their shoulder, I
Does
haven't
they
seen
ha-
Keg.
So the new staff animation is they have it like on their
Right.
shoulder.
Right.
It's a staff animation, but someone had a Blood Elf monk screenshot, and they just had a keg,
Oh,
and they had
wow.
it just right here.
I
on
did
the
not
side.
think they would do that. That's awesome.
So
Let-
very
I'll- let
similar
me see if I can
to,
find it.
like Chen's resting
Like
pose.
Chen.
Yeah.
Chen, essentially,
like,
yeah.
It's like everything I ever wanted from Brewmaster.
That's
like,
what people said. That's what they really wanted.
Just wanting it for years.
I was like, no, they're not doing that. That's just ridiculous. How is that going to work with it? But
All right.
hey, you know,
You know,
that's great.
I think I know what my next
I mean, I
3D
know they're-
figure print is going to be. I'm actually taking a class right now on how to make anything, and it deals with 3D printing and laser etching and stuff like that. And so my final project is actually a 3D print of Chai. So
I think I've seen you
yeah,
working on this
so
stuff.
I'm going to, if I go Brewmaster
Post
next
that
time, that
stuff.
will definitely be another 3D print I'll be making for sure. All right, hey guys, out there in the dojo, if your team is recruiting a monk, we happen to know a couple of them. So shoot us the information at show@monkmeditation.com or on Twitter at monk_meditation. We'll shout out to you. I know recruitment's a little slow right now until Legion comes out, but if you're building up your ranks, prepping for Legion, let us know. We'll get the word out for you. All right, guys, I think it's time to put the brew away. So everyone, please rate us on iTunes, Stitcher, subscribe on YouTube or on Twitch.tv. Your numbers really do help us. And if you would like to help support the show and help it grow and get even better, you can become our boss by going to patreon.com/monkmeditation. You can help guide the future of the show and get some fun rewards along the way. All right, Monkyo, you have a shout out, sir?
I guess shout out to our boy Limited in our guild. Not sure if he's listening, but he basically put on this giant Overwatch tournament for our guild, and it was so much fun. He put a lot of work into it. He sponsored with prizes like Overwatch Origin editions and 90-day game times and all this stuff. Which I don't know where he got the money from to do all that, but he did a really good job. So thanks, bud.
All right, and LeBlue.
Thanks to the Brewmaster community as we sit here and try to put together pieces that may not be there soon.
And I want to give a shout out to Callie Monk. Thank you for running the Discord server. I know that's a hard job because there's a lot of salt going on right now. So thanks for keeping the ranks somewhat under order. All right. Well, thank you all for listening. As part of the Monk community, if you have a blog, website, or person you want to see on the show, reach out to us via email at show@monkmeditation.com. The Monk community is the best one in the world of Warcraft, and we want to showcase it. Monkio, how can the dojo best reach us?
The dojo can best reach us on the following Twitter handles. You can follow the show at Monk Meditation. You can follow Chai T at Walmonk. You can follow at Air Walker. You can follow me at Monkio, and you can follow LeBlue, I guess, at Kegarai LeBlue.
All right. Thanks everybody for watching and listening, and you can watch us live Monday, March 7th at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, midnight UTC at twitch.tv/wowmonk. You can also visit monkmeditation.com for links to all the ways to watch and listen to the show. That will wrap up this episode of Monk Meditation.
May your brews be strong and your heart stronger.
Good night, everybody.
Night.
I rolled a 20.
All right.